Comparing and ordering integers. So what exactly is an integer? Integers are whole numbers and they can be positive or negative. Now remember, this would not be an integer. It's a decimal, and decimals are not integers. So integers are whole numbers and they can be positive or negative. Here are some examples of real-life negative integers. If it's below freezing, if it's below zero. In football, you can lose 2 yards on a carry. Sometimes people are in debt. They actually have less than $0. Stocks can drop $2. That's a negative. In golf, a negative score is actually the score you want to have. And there's below sea level. And our national debt is a humongous negative number. So let's compare integers. Now there's no happier number than 0 because in elementary school, pretty much any time you're comparing numbers, 0 is always the smallest number. But not today, and not when you're comparing negative numbers. 0 is actually bigger. If you take a look at this number line, 0 is larger than any number on this side of the number line. So 0 is larger than any negative number. Okay, let's put a few integers in order. I'm going to start with the smallest integer. When I'm working with negative numbers, I like to think of money. So which one of these would I definitely not want to be? It's this one. I would not want to have negative $26. In fact, I'd rather have $0 than negative 26. The next smallest number would be negative 16. I wouldn't want to have negative $16 either. I guess negative $6 would be a little bit better. I'd rather have 0, but the best would be have $3. So those are that's one way that you can order integers. Just remember the larger the negative number, negative 246, the smaller the number. The further you go out this way on the number line, the smaller the number. So let's use that money example when we're comparing fractions. Now remember, the arrow is always pointing at the smaller number, or it's eating the larger number, which is a little thing that you learned in elementary school. Let's look at this first example. You've got negative 2 and negative 12. Well, I'd rather have negative $2 than negative $12. Negative 2 is the larger number. So you can see here it's pointing at the smaller number, and I know some of you learned this last year. It's eating the larger number. Let's compare the two numbers underneath that one. So you've got negative 32 and negative 30. Well, I'd rather have negative $30 than negative 32. Negative 30 is larger than negative 32. Next one's easy. I'd rather have $1 than negative 1. Positive numbers are always going to be larger than negative numbers. Negative 75 and negative 64. Well, I'd rather have negative $64 than negative $75. That's larger. Now this next example, I'd rather not have either of these. Negative 310 or negative 305. Well, I guess I'd rather have negative $305. And you know, another way to think of it, the closer to zero you get, the larger the number. And this is closer to 0 than this is. Now the next one's pretty easy. Would you rather have negative $12 or negative $209? Well, I'd rather have the negative 12. Okay, let's just look just at a couple quick true-false questions. Let's look at this first example. Is negative 56 greater than 55? Well, the answer is false. This is a positive number. Positive numbers are always going to be greater than negative numbers. Is negative 7 greater than negative 8? Well, the answer to that would be true. Just think about it. Negative 7 is closer to 0 than negative 8. And the closer you get to 0, the larger the number. Is negative 13 less than negative 8? The answer to that is true. Remember, I would rather have negative $8 than negative $13. Negative 8 is larger, and so it should point to the smaller number. The opposite of 6 is negative 6. Is the opposite of 6 negative 6? Well, that's actually true. Here's 0. Here we have 6. The opposite of 6 is negative 6. And the opposite of negative 6 would be 6. One final example. Negative 81 is less than negative 78. Is that true? Is that pointing at the smaller number? Yes, it is. I'd rather have negative $78 than I would negative 81. So that is true. And again, remember, negative 78 is closer to 0 than negative 81. And we could put negative 200 here, negative 3,000. So the further you get away from 0, going this way in a number line, the smaller the number. So that's how you compare and order integers.